Now the body, I went through the process of flatting the paint, buffing it. I mean, the surface finish is quite good. The problem, and yes, there is a problem, as I've said many times, black is very unforgiving. It shows imperfections, it shows all sorts of things. The problem is I'm actually going to have to respray it. Now, you might ask why. The why is that I'm not satisfied that the black is even, and the reason it's not even is when I went through the process of flatting it, because when I sprayed this it went on a little bit too dry. I actually had to cut it back quite a lot. Now, it wasn't until I got to this stage of really buffing it up that I noticed that I'd actually cut back quite a long way, and it resulted in being able to see, not openly see, but to see the undercoat coming through from underneath. Now, I mean, you can't see patches of grey or anything in there, but in certain light, and it's really bright light, you can see that it is black and an uneven black going to almost a brown in some places, where I've actually had to cut it back to flatten it, and I've cut down too low. It hasn't gone all the way to undercoat, but it's gone far enough to allow that undercoat to change the colour of the black. So it's all got to be resprayed. Now, you could leave it. Yes, I could. But this is the problem with black. You have to get it right, or you'll end up regretting not going back and doing it again. Now, this sort of brings me back to an incident I had. I went to a car show a few years ago and saw this beautiful black Mark 7 Jaguar, professionally done. I spoke to the owner, and he gave me the rundown of his discussion with the spray painter, who actually didn't want to spray black. I tried to talk him out of it, and for all the reasons that I've probably mentioned a few times, that it's a very hard colour to get right. And anyway, he finally agreed to spray his Jaguar black, and he went to the spray painters one day and saw this beautiful finish on his car, and he's really pleased. And it wasn't quite finished, but anyway, he went away and came back a week later and found out that the spray painter had resprayed it. He couldn't understand why, but it's probably for not exactly the same reason that I'm going to respray this, but it wasn't quite right, and it had to be redone to get it up to the professional spray painter's standards. Now, my standards aren't as high, but I've gone through a lot of effort to get this type of finish, and I want it right. So anyway, you live and learn. But one thing I have learnt is that this will be the last black car I spray. My E-Type sitting over there will go back to its original British Racing Green, which is a dark colour, but not as bad as black. As I say, I could only find the problem in the paint when I got to this stage. You couldn't see it otherwise. Just the nature of the colour. Anyway, just thought I'd update on that. I've started to respray the body. This stage I've put 4 coats on. It's come up a lot better. I've avoided the heat. As I said, the problem I had last time was that the heat was causing certainly the roof to be a lot drier than it should have been when it was being sprayed on. Reason for that is that I'm in a garage with a tin roof, and even though the temperature on the garage floor where I am is reasonably cool, I get radiated heat from the roof, so that was causing a problem. So I've now sprayed this body with the temperature around 18-19 degrees, and even then there was a little bit of heat coming through the roof. The difficulties I've had, the only difficulty is the fact that it's a little bit higher than it was when I first sprayed it. So I've got, say, planks and things that I had to position around it. I'm actually walking the plank as I'm spraying it on both sides. It's a little bit high, about 18 inches off the ground I had to get to be able to reach across the roof. But apart from that, it's come up all right. What I'll do now is I'll rub that back with 800. Not straight away. I'll wait about a week till the paint is completely gassed off, and then I'll put another 4 coats on. So all in all 8 coats, and then I'll let that dry off for quite some time. At this stage I'll be quite sick of spraying for a while, so I'll just move on to some mechanical work. I'm just doing my penance for not taking care when I first sprayed the body, in terms of watching the temperature, that is. I'll put another 8 coats on, and now what I'm starting to do, it's hardened off a bit, I'm starting to rub it back. As you can see, I've got a bit of a scaffold here so I can get up high enough. I'll just climb up and show you. Getting up and down on this gets a bit awkward during the day. Now I've been rubbing this back with 2000 this time. The surface on the spray was a lot better with the cooler temperatures, so I'm able to use 2000 to rub it back flat. I've just been doing that. I'll just try and show you what I do. Got my spray bottle here. I just spray a bit of soapy water on the panel, and then using my little block here, I then just rub a small section backwards and forwards, trying to get an even cut. I don't put a lot of pressure on it. The soap makes it easier to glide across. And what I'm trying to do is just to remove all imperfections in the paint. So mainly it's slight orange peel. There's not a lot of orange peel on this surface, but you won't know until you start to rub it back. So I rub that back a bit like that. You can see there's a bit of black paint on that. Now some people use a rubber squeegee affair to wipe that off. I actually use paper towels. For me it's just a lot easier, and I can get a reasonably dry surface to then look when that dries off. And you probably won't see this in the video, but if you get the right light angle, you'll be able to see if this surface is not completely flat. And you'll see little flecks where the paint surface is below where you've cut. Now, as I say, you can't see that. I'd actually have to get closer myself to actually look at it. But once you've got that surface flat, then of course you move to the next section. Now, I obviously haven't done over here. This is just raw paint off the gun, and all this will be flattened out to that. Now, starting with 2000 this time, I'll go down to 3000 before I start to buff it up. So the surface this time is a lot better with the cooler temperatures, so I'm not having to cut it back all that much. It's really only the very top surface just to smooth that out. Anyway, so it'll take a while. It's a very slow process. I only do a patch about probably 12 inches square at a time, and gradually move along the car, so it'll take me days to actually do all of this, but I do a little bit each day, and that seems to work out well. As I say, you're perched up on a ladder, so you don't want to be a little bit unsure on your feet, but anyway, so that's where I'm at. I'll show you when I'm finished.